All right. I will start and hi everyone. My name is Juliana. I am HR manager for Peer Brewing, and I'm an alumni from the 2019 class. Oh my God, cannot believe it's been already so long. I've been working with HR for about oh my gosh, 11 to 12 years. Worked at Brazil initially. I'm originally from Brazil. Also worked as an HR in Mexico, Peru, Colombia, Venezuela, and now United States. I've been here in the United States for about 7 years, and I'm really excited to share with you guys some information that I think would be like super valuable. Just want to make sure everyone can see my screen, and yeah, awesome. So today, we're going to talk about multiple things. So why should we know about salary negotiation and why does it matter, right? It is more than a number. And we're going to talk a little bit about like why is more than a number. And I'm also going to kind of like give you guys like an overall of all the things that are going on in this current scenario in the workforce that we have right now. We're going to talk about challenges and scenarios. Then I'm going to talk about employer perspective. So you as a leader, how you consider salary negotiation. And then the last piece, we're going to talk about the employee perspective. And I'm going to give you guys some like tips and tricks into how to negotiate your salary. Also, I wanted to make sure that I am, using the best time of you guys. So if you have any questions that I can answer to you, please don't hesitate in putting on the comments, and I'll be happy to address them during or after the presentation. Sounds good? Awesome. All right. Why we should know about salary negotiation? First and foremost, your rate is way more than just a number. There's like so many things to factor in when you're like defining what is your number. If you feel right now, if you have a job right now and you feel that you're not paid enough, you probably should feel empowered to negotiate your salary. I want to take this opportunity to really empower everyone, because you know what? Being quiet, it's not going to do anything to your salary. So I want to make sure you take this opportunity really to just kind of like, I want to inspire you to go and have that conversation. They are a little uncomfortable, but guess what? If you don't do anything, nothing will change. So I want to empower you to get the best out of the seminar and get ready to negotiate your salary with your supervisor, or get ready to negotiate your salary as you receive a new offer letter. One thing that is very important, and I'm going to talk about like a lot, is that salary negotiation shouldn't be like, I'm doing a good job, I should be getting a raise, right? You should have to make sure that every salary negotiation comes with facts, results, and research. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And also, we're going to talk about changes in the workforce that require adaptability. So basically, you as an employer being adaptable to your workforce needs, and you as an employee understanding where your company is coming from, and putting those together. I'm pretty sure we can find like a win-win situation in salary negotiations. What happens with companies is that a lot of them, they don't have like a salary structure, right? So that puts them in a position where like Juliana asked for a raise. All right, what are we going to do? Should we give her a raise? Should we not give her a raise? What is her pay salary? So one thing that I always say is having a pay structure for your company, and also going into a company, like arriving as a company as an employee, you should ask those things. Do you guys have like a salary structure? Because that is going to define a lot about like how ready the company is to tackle those needs. So what's going on? So a little bit here about like the scenario that is going on. And I think this is very pertinent. We just talked about the Great Resignation, right? So if you guys know, heard about rumors about the Great Resignation, basically what happened is that we have 30% of the American workforce quit their jobs. Because why? Multiple factors. So there's a lot of things that are happening right now. Of course, the pandemic happened, and people that were without jobs, they're like, okay, I need to get another job. But we're all sitting in our houses wondering about life, right? And like what life is about. It is about my work, or is about like anyone else, or is about my passions and things like that. So what happened? We had a lot of people quitting. We had a lot of people receiving stimulus check that somehow that also play a big role into like some people quitting. So for example, some people were getting more money from the government that they were getting from the employer, and they're like, wait, I can not work while I'm in this pandemic. So there was a lot of employers that had this really had to like reshuffle their workforce, because people were quitting because they're getting stimulus checks as well. But also what happened is that people were starting like reconsider their lives and their careers. People are starting to make switches in industries. People started to like, I got laid off from this job. Maybe I would try that passion that has been, inside me, and I knew that I can be talented of it, and exploring like new scenarios, right? A lot of people retire, or they have like early retirements because of the pandemic as well. So what happened? There's so many opportunities coming and going every single day. Also, one thing that I feel that like also happened, and I can say like in my company as well, is like people wanting to have like career opportunities. And if they see that the company does not provide those opportunities, they're like, why I'm here, right? So like, I'm just gonna try this other new company that have more opportunities and things like that. And what happened with the companies that didn't have that expectations or that connection with employees, they just left because there's more opportunities out there. Opportunities at Google or tech companies that would never be available because of all the shuffle that happened. People just jump into right? So another big thing that happened on this past couple of years is burnout. And burnout really played a big part of like why this resignation happened, especially from frontline workers, parents, teachers, caregivers, and leaders. Because leaders, when someone leaves, guess what happens? You take on all that job that they did, and you just have to run with it, right? So one interesting fact that I want to share with you guys is that there was a research that also was conducted in 2021, found that one for every three women were considering switching their jobs or cutting their hours during the pandemic because of childcare, because of not being able to handle, just like work and taking care of the kids in the work, working from home. So work from home became a thing, and that changed everything. So many things happening, like with the Great Resignation. I don't like to blame the Great Resignation for the reason why people are asking for a salary negotiation, but definitely had a great impact into why we're seeing the workforce scenario being like that as we see. Also, what happened? Companies trying to keep up with the changes. Work remote, not work remote. Should we sign up for Zoom Premium or not Zoom Premium? It's very costly to run all those systems, right? So increasing wages, they're revisiting their benefits, but not really knowing like what is going on with the scenario and what's going on with their team, losing a lot of people. They are trying to be more flexible, but at the same time, what's going on? The cost of running business never been so high. Goods and services are increasing, and there's a shortage of supply, as we all know, right? So what that happens, the company wants to give out those like great benefits and great salaries and things like that, but they do have their issues and their challenges in providing all that to the employees, because as we're going to talk a little bit about in a couple of minutes, it's much more than just like your rate of pay, your X amount of dollars per hour, or your X amount of annual income, right? And one thing that is very costly too is the cost of turnover itself. There was a proof that like every time that someone quits, it's going to take up to 30% of the company's time and annual wage just to replace that person with training, with figuring out, putting some other people to do that same job, but at the same time, they might not be the best one in doing that type of activity, the relocation benefits. You all basically just like renegotiate everything once you have a new person coming in. So the cost of turnover is definitely one of the highest pieces that when you are looking for employee retention, it's a struggle. So keep that in mind that all the companies are struggling with that, but at the same time, employees have their needs, right? So how we meet in the middle. Okay, for employers. So one thing that I highly recommend is first, create a salary structure that is sustainable and working with ranges that you feel comfortable as a company, right? Position A, we're gonna pay X until Y. What is your wiggle room? How much you can go further? You for defining those things, you're gonna have to see things like who are your key employees? What type of job you'll be willing to pay more because they either generate some type of revenue or if they provide any type of return that for you is so valuable that you'll be willing to make that investment on that person, right? So as an employer, you always have to think, okay, I do have this structure and I want to stick to this structure, not just because you want to have those answers. So when someone asks you for like a raise, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, what do I do? But you have confidence into like, this is the range that you have. This is the range of salary that I have. If we need to go above that number, we'll just have to make it's going to take a little bit more time. Also, build a succession plan. This is like so important, and a lot of people don't. A lot of companies fail in looking at those things, right? Especially with pandemic, probably some workers had to be either like quarantine or isolate, and companies currently around to figure it out how to be without this person for 15 days, right? So having a succession plan, it's really important. So you feel that you not just give people career opportunities or you give them opportunities, but also you have a sustainable business where if that person leaves, bummer, but I always already have that key person that I want to know that that can take on, right? So there's like so many things that just with the salary structure will be, tackle on those scenarios that I highly recommend companies to do that. Also, one thing that if you haven't done it yet as a leader, I highly recommend you to do it is improve your offerings and leaves. So much change. And I feel that like if the company do that, or not just do that, but also ask employees what do they want, it's gonna save them so much money and resources. I'll give you an example. Maybe back in the days, having PTO was not the most attractive thing to one generation, but for another generation, it is what they want. They want unlimited PTO. They want flexible because they want to be able to travel and still work in an environment. Work from home. COVID changed everything. And with that, they really, the workforce nowadays is expecting that flexibility from employers. Also, make sure that you create a personalized benefit and the perks offering, right? You want to make sure that you're not giving, insurance if your employees don't really care much about like life insurance, but they really care about pet insurance, and they will be willing to pay some money to get their pets insured. So take those things in consideration. Sometimes managers, they say like, oh, I think my team will like some child care support, or I think, but ask them. They will feel so empowered into just sharing like what are their needs as a human being. If you don't ask, you never know. So some of the things here that I want to share that it's been research has been proved, and one of the best companies out there in the Silicon Valley are doing is generous PTO, child care support, either on site or also giving like a subsidy for child care. Tuition reimbursement has been a big one. So when the company really helps you to either like some certifications or even like college degree as well. Mental health resources is something that more and more is being getting popular, is a company helping employees to cope with like life challenges. And that can be something very simple. So for example, have you guys seen like Talkspace or Cerebral? Those are apps about mental health support that companies can put some money into it to just like help the employee with that first or second session with a therapist that will set them up for success. You know, you're just giving them like a good start into tackling those mental health challenges that we might be facing in life. Another thing too is focus on wellness and little perks. It's incredible how a little discount or a little, you know, gym membership or something like that, those all make a difference. Because for example, if you're giving free membership to your employees, you're saving your employees probably $100 a month. If you think about that, that's like $1,200 out of your yearly salary, right? So like that, you're going to be saving, if you give like $100 of gym, you will be saving your employee $12,000 in a year. So that place, that's why I keep saying it's way more than just a number, right? Like what do you offer? It really sets up your employee for success. Another thing, more than ever, we should focus on retention, loyalty, and engagement. And those are probably one of the hardest things to do as an employer. One thing that I was just talking with Jimmy about it is that how we know with all those opportunities that were happening during the pandemic, a lot of new hires are getting like higher pay as the current employees, right? So what you're having is like a pay difference between someone that has been in the company to someone that is just, you know, just starting, but the companies really needed that person, so they were willing to pay more. And what happened is that that senior person is like, wait, I have more experience than this person, why they're getting more than me? You know, because of the market changes so much that otherwise, if employers wouldn't like give like a better offer, they would never hire anyone for that position, right? So I highly recommend create like a recognition program for your employees that would not just focus on your senior employees, and always keep your eyes on their salary gaps, making sure that you're not being unfair to your senior employees, but the other way around. You know, you are looking at the whole spectrum of employees that you have right now and making your salaries based on that. Also, offering opportunities of advancement and build career paths. Companies, if you work for a company and you don't see a future in there, what is the probability that you're going to keep in this company if you get an offer that is $1 more? Honestly, I would. If I don't have any chance in this company, if I don't see where I will be able to go going forward or in the following year, my relationship with that company is very limited. My engagement with that company is very limited, because it's just one of those things that if you don't see a light in the end of the tunnel, or if you don't see where to go, what is your motivation, right? Because we are humans and we all like to be constantly developing. So make sure you share those opportunities. Make sure you build career paths for departments and things like that. Make sure you provide a big picture vision. If people don't see the big pictures, why the company investing? Why did we create this? Why we did like that? And that's also on the leadership as well. And I have it here too, develop leaders and build a strong culture. Leaders are responsible for managing the culture, and they are the one that should be responsible for providing the big picture, right? If you don't have that, you're just like working on your silo, and you're just like, don't see why. The why. Have you guys seen the Simon Sinek? It's one of my favorite books. It starts with the why. It talks about that. It talks about why it should matter, that you should like provide the big picture for your employees. It does matter. It does increase engagement. So always be aware of that. Also, respect employees' personal life. Silly to say, but so much change, right? We have a workforce that wants flexibility. We have a workforce that right now that maybe the 9 to 5 does not appeal for them anymore. They want to be able to take 3 or 4 hours lunch, but they will be willing to work until like 8 or 9 at night because that's what it is. Or we have maybe people that like project-based things where they're going to work 12 hours straight and they're going to get the job done, but they don't like that like Monday to Friday flexibility. We have people that want to work just 4 days a week, which is fine. We just have to make sure that you employers are not set in like, this is how we do it. And I think that's what happens during pandemic, that a lot of employers, they're just like, oh, this is how we do it. This is how we have been. No, companies need to stop doing that and really challenge the status quo into what their employees, what their current employees wanted from the company and how the company can move in a way to like provide that to them. I want to touch in the last thing, which is foster a healthy work environment. That's very interesting, and I can literally spend so much time talking about that, but I'm going to talk about some of them. Okay, first and foremost, systems. A lot of healthy work environments comes with setting your team for success. If you have a system that is creating double work or is ancient, or it's just like not doing what it's supposed to do, you're not setting your team for success. They're probably spending way much time that they should on that specific system, right? So review those. Workload. It's been a long time that working 12 hours a day was a cool thing, and people will appreciate you for that. There's definitely some researchers that say that like more and more that one of the benefits that people like the most, it is that work-life balance. We want work-life balance because you're way more than your work. So you want to make sure that you always have a workload that is what is connected to you. If you are in a company that you are a workaholic person, make sure that you're in a company that will align that to you. If you want more flexibility, make sure you align with the company that offers that flexibility. So companies need to, again, talk to their employees and ask, what do you guys want? What I can provide to you to make your work and your life easier. Another thing that I always say here, have fun. And work, it's one of those things that was like, oh, I cannot have fun at work. And I'm completely against, I'm an HR. And one of the biggest things that I feel that like we create engagement is when people are like genuinely have fun at work. So little things like barbecues, like happy hours, like sending someone to a theme park or having a Friday off. Those little things, they make a whole lot of difference. And people feel appreciated just from having those opportunities. Create little competitions inside the company, make sales competitions that sometimes it's not giving you like any type of super bonus or things like that, but it's still creating an engagement and almost like a challenging work environment. Create community. That's huge. You want to make sure that you feel that like the work that you're doing, not just that impacts your work and your employees, but also the community around you, the neighborhood around you. One thing that I really enjoyed that we just implemented in our company is the VTO, which is the volunteer time off. So basically we're giving our employees some hours to do community work, and we're going to pay for it because that's important. If this is important to you, it is important for us too, because we want our employees to be happy as well. So those little things, they don't come at high cost, and they create like a really, really high engagement. Another thing too, help with your employees with financial planning. That's something that has been long due overseen. When your employees are struggling with their finances, they are not 100% in the work environment. So give them some slideshows about how to manage your finances. Give them classes about like 401k and how to invest in your retirement. There's like so many things that you can foster an environment where your employees not just going to feel that they have a say in the company, but also company is giving them something and not them just giving just employee giving their energy. And as I mentioned, develop leaders and build a strong culture is definitely part of that. employer thing. So now I want to stop just a little bit and ask if someone want to share, doesn't need to share. I can share my own experience, but what is stopping you from asking asking a raise? 89% of US workers in one study believe that they deserved a raise, but just 54% plan to ask one. What do you think are the main factors that make that percentage so low? I would be curious to hear from you guys.
Hey, Juliana, this is Ryan. I was going to ask a question just before this, but kind of as a leader, I wanted to get your thoughts on how to approach this. I have a team I have employees in their 20s, and it ranges all the way to employees in their late 50s and 60s. The motivators for those employees are vastly different. Yep. So I wanted to get your thoughts on how should you approach eliciting or finding out what drives each of those people as far as benefits. And then really, how often should you check in on that? Because over time, people's incentives and desires change as they progress through their career. So do you have any kind of thoughts about that? Because I think a big part of the hesitation on this question is grounded in that, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking, Ryan. Yeah. As far as like how long you should check in on your employees, I would say the bare minimum should be 1 year. Every time that you're doing open enrollment for HR folks, every time that you're like revisiting your benefits, it is the time to gather information. That's the bare minimum, really. And then keeping the conversations day in and day out about their needs as part of your leadership strategy. I'm going to give you an example. Someone call out because their childcare is closed. Oh my gosh, I will follow up with that employee and say like, hey, I'm wondering like, what can I do to help you with that? Do you think that like if something along the lines of like some childcare subsidy can help you, listening to them in that personalized way, with day in and day out things that happen. And then when you have all that information, regardless of their age, right, and it can be really a diverse workforce based on their needs, and it could be, the little things and also the small things. What I recommend to do is really offer the everything and let employees pick what they need the most. Having more is better than having less. So if there is an option, for example, to do pet insurance that is not going to cost like too much for you as an employer, give that option to everyone, because you never know. You can have 3 employees that want it, but you also can have 50 employees that want it, right? Sometimes people don't even know that they would like to have that. So I wouldn't really like be focused on age-based or like generational things, but also like taking all the research that you did by talking with your employees and really like almost asking their needs in a daily basis with the things that happen in the workplace. For example, this person is getting late every day, and they say, oh no, it's just because like I coach football. Oh, do you want a more like flexible work environment? Will that work for you? What would that look like? Half an hour more, half an hour less? What is it, like what it works for you? And really like look at all those different benefits that you can provide and offer to everyone and let them pick. So when they're looking at their benefits and they're like, I have so many options. And when they have like open enrollment, that's when they're like looking at their benefits. And I'm like, I had no idea that company provided that many benefits. And that will be what it differentiates you from all the other employers, because if they decide to leave, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that company is paying $2 more, but man, I love that free membership that they give it to me. Or I love that they give me like this app that I can take care of my mental health. I'm wondering if my employer had that, that offer letter that I have in this other company, if they had those things, right? Or I know that I have a career path in here and I can see that I can get up to being a director, but I don't know those things when I have this offer letter, right? So you want to make sure that you're gauging all the interests of your employees and offering to everyone, regardless of their generations. That would be one of my suggestions in that sense. Yes.
Kind of piggybacking off what Ryan is saying, how do you manage all of that? So if you got, I'm thinking just from a work standpoint, an hour standpoint, you got employees who want to work 4 hours, 12 hours, the typical 9 to 5.
Mhm.
Like, how do you manage that as an employer?
Yeah, it is a challenge. I'm not gonna lie. And especially with being California, with California laws, it's not that you can just kind of work whatever you want and things like that. So when it comes to work flexibility, you do have to change your approach into like what are the most popular ways of making that flexible schedule. I'm going to give you an example. So there was a lot of talks about 4-10s, right? So which means that you're going to work for 4 days a week and you're going to work 10 hours. So you're always going to have a Friday, but you're going to work 10 hours every single day. You can do that, but the thing is that there is a law that say like you cannot just like change and not pay overtime for your employees, right? You have to have a process of submitting a poll for your employees and asking literally everyone in the company or in the department that is going to be affected by that change to vote. And the majority of the options is going to be the way that the company is going to work. So for example, I'm going to have employees that want the 4-10, but I also want people that like to work 5 days a week from 9 to 5 for many reasons, right? Childcare and school and things like that. Or there are some people that want the full flexibility, right? So those are like 3 ways that you can do it. One is really making a poll and ask people to select 1 or 2 ways. You can always do the other way, which is like the 3 ways, but it's a lot of paperwork involved on that because you basically have to report to the government that people are working 10 hours, but they're not really working overtime because they're working 40 hours a week. But also you can just give the opportunity for people to change those schedules as well. So let's say if they want to do 4-10s, they can, but they can also do 5-8s on the following week. But you just have to make sure that you do your due diligence legally, per se. When it comes to flexible work environment, so let's say like I don't want to have a work, I don't want to clock in and clock out. You can make your work strategies project-based. So you want to make sure that you also change your goals into like, oh, okay, you don't want to have you don't want to have like a 9 to 5 job, but if you guarantee to me that you're going to work 40 hours, and if there's any overtime, you're going to let me know, we can do what do we call, with a little bit technical, which is like the salary exempt, the hourly exempt. So that means that you pay them per day and they work whatever time they want. So there are options to adapt to your employment and to the needs of your employees. You just want to make sure that you set them up for success. Again, if you want to have more flexibility, make sure you know how to measure success on that setup. Because otherwise, unfortunately, you might have some people taking advantage of that type of work environment, right? So you want to make sure that you put systems and goals in place that you're going to have that variety. It is possible. It is possible to have multiple work flexibilities or work schedules in one company. Just have to do the work and do the process to avoid getting in trouble. I'm wondering, like, what are your thoughts, like, when you're like thinking about like salary negotiation? What stops you? Like in my perspective, it's honestly the fear of the conversation that's playing like that. I'm wondering if anyone has any other ideas than that.
I was going to say, my reticence typically has been the signaling it gives to management or folks above me in leadership. If you say, hey, Juliana, I feel I deserve a 10% raise because you give a slew of facts of industry knowledge or parity roles in other organizations, that can have an adverse signal to the folks above you to say, oh, this individual may be considering resigning, or maybe considering transitioning elsewhere. So I think one of the reasons for reticence would be the negative signaling that you can potentially do when you do these kinds of conversations.
That's interesting. Anyone else want to share like their fears, like to why salary negotiation? It's kind of like a just challenging.
I think just the rejection.
Yeah.
Like
fear of
Yeah.
rejection. But guess what? If you don't try
I
it, you're
know.
gonna never know. All right, so.
And I think, Juliana, what I'm
Ah.
taking from this too is as you do that, it can be salary, but it can also be other things that are important to you, right?
Exactly.
So maybe if there's 3 or 4 things that I approach my employer about, maybe I don't get all of them, but maybe I'll get some of them. And
Absolutely.
so I like that it's not just.
It's not just a number. Yeah, it's not just a number. And by any means, I think the number is important because that's how we pay our bills. And free membership does not pay the bills, but it does help, right? So I will definitely another thing about, the employee. So now I'm gonna switch to employee perspective, okay? So you as an employee, what are the strategies that we should take in consideration when asking for a raise? So do your homework. First and foremost, determine your current worth in the job market. And how you do that? Multiple ways. So first and foremost, you look at your title, you look at your company, you look at your company's finances, you look at the industry that we are in, you look at your location. Are you living in San Diego? A little bit expensive, right? If you're living in inland and probably going to be more, your salary is going to be a little bit different for the same position, right? Look at your experience. Look how much experience you have in that field, in that position, when you're looking for a position. And you guys are going to see here, I'm going to go and talk a lot about like current or new hires. I will have a slide when you're doing like new hire. So when you're like, have a job offer. And I also have a slide that talks about like when you are like a current employer, like they're the same, but they're slightly different in some ways. Research salaries on the internet, but, and a big but on that is, fun fact that if you go to any website like Indeed or Glassdoor and just Google and just put HR manager, San Diego salary, I'm going to be slightly disappointed in what I'm going to see, because what happens is that the companies that report their salaries on the internet, they're either public and they have to, or they're big enough that they can. And a lot of them, they end up being are in tech or in healthcare, like jobs that if you don't report your salary, you're most likely it's almost like a way to promote your company, right? Tech companies, they can pay more than software companies, than the mom and pop shop. Small companies, unfortunately, they will not be able to match what you see online. So take that in consideration. Do you want to work for like a big company? Probably you're going to match the salary that you see in the internet, but you're going to set you up for disappointment if you think that working for like a 50 people or even like a small company, they're going to be able to match exactly what you need. But that's when the negotiation comes in place, that usually those small companies, you have much more power of negotiation on those benefits or those perks, right? So keep that in consideration when you're looking in the internet about like how much my position is worth, right? Also, make an assessment of all your expenses and set your acceptable minimum amount. So literally put in a piece of paper, an Excel spreadsheet actually, and it's easier. All your expenses, phone, credit card, loans, gym, your dog food, your pet insurance, the dinners that you like to go with your family. Put like a monthly budget into like, what are my monthly expenses? And then play with that number. Usually what I like to do, and that's just me, I like to break down per day, how much per day I want as like extra, so I can like be okay about it. So I put my salary here on the first column, I put all my expenses on the second column, and then how much that's gonna last. So I'm just gonna play with the numbers and see how much is gonna end in the end of the day it's my bare minimum. You want to have a bare minimum and you want to stick to it, unless there are some benefits that will like decrease that cost. So make sure you do your homework and really see what are the things that are important to you. If working from home is going to decrease your commute up to 50% of your cost with your gas, with your home, put this as something that it's a must. I want to have the ability to work at least 1 or 2 days out of the week at home, right? Put those into the budget, because in the end of the day, it will make a lot of difference. And then once you have your minimum, make sure that you're being reasonable with your request. And that speaks a little bit with like what Ryan said, is that like, you want to make sure that you're not setting you too low, that you don't cannot pay your expenses, but you cannot also set too high that you're going to put your company in a position where they're going to have to say no, or even like make changes that they're like, is this employee like taking advantage of me, or having that morale just kind of, or that idea from your leader, they're like, why they're asking so much? You know, are they trying, take advantage of you or something like that? So you want to make sure you get reasonable, because otherwise, if you don't meet in the middle with the company, they're gonna see there's like, you're not looking strategically, right? You're not like considering all the facts. You're not doing your homework into like seeing that this position cannot pay that, unfortunately, even though with all the all the experience and things like that. We have to make sure that you meet in the middle and be reasonable with the employer. Otherwise, you're gonna have just like more challenges into talking with your supervisor next time that you ask for a raise again. One thing that I think that it really helps as you're going to a new position, or like just kind of asking your manager, is like, ask for the range. Like, what's your range? Even if they don't have it, ask them for it, because knowing the range, you know a little bit more to expect. And that's this is a lot for like new hires or like job offers. You can ask for like a salary range in your first like virtual interview. It was like, hey, I'm curious, just want to make sure what is the salary range for that position, because that's going to save you time. Because if this position doesn't pay you what you want, you might as well not even apply for it, right? And that saves a lot of money in the HR folks that are looking, they're going to go all the way through the final stages, and unfortunately not be able to meet those employee expectations. And then you're going to put in a piece of paper, what do you have to offer? And usually I highly recommend literally putting like in a piece of paper that helps you to kind of practice for your conversation, right? So where do you live at, and why the cost of commute is so expensive right now? That what are your experience in the industry, not just like as your position, but in the industry, and how you can even like put this into the next level if you get that promotion, right? What are your leadership skills, and what it makes you a leader in this company? Education, of course. I have an MBA. I can ask more. Those things that do make a difference when you're talking to employers, and when you're like negotiating career raises. What are your level that you are in your career? Are you just like an entry level person, or you're like senior? Right? So all those things will have to be taken in consideration. And of course, your skills, your licenses and certifications. Put this all on paper. And not just that, think about, okay, I have this and skills and those certifications. What those things help me to perform this job? And because I have all those skills and certifications and abilities, I can be a better employee for you. So you always want to present the return of investment on that the company will have if they give you that raise or if they hire you. So and then you're going to prepare the talking points really, and based on your skills or based on your certification, what are the results that you achieved? I'm a recruiter, and I'm pretty sure and I have some recruiters on the call here today. But recruiters and HR, I spend about 30 seconds in each resume every time that I receive a resume. 30 seconds, not more than that. So I want to know what you did differently? Because I know what a project coordinator does, but what are your results? Why do you change it? Or what type of revenue that increase? You know, like we want to know. I don't need the job description of a of a project coordinator. I want to know what this, you know, what this candidate did. Make sure that your resume stands out. Keep it short, because you know, again, when you, for us, HR professionals and recruiters, when we're receiving resumes, they are just piece of papers, and it's so unfair to rely your whole career in one piece of paper. So make sure you make it as personal as it can be. You know, I did that and I increased this revenue, or I reduced turnover, or I created this program and this program lead to that. You know, make sure that you create all those appealing, oh, you know, that the recruiter would be like, oh, a project coordinator that this and that. You're like, oh, okay, I might be interested in talking to that person because I want to know more about it, right? So making sure that you focus on your deliverables, the revenues that you'll have to drive. Awards are great. And connect your experience with the job description. I always say, every time that you're like doing a resume and you feel that like you want to just kind of like shoot your resume to every company, don't, especially if you're applying for multiple positions. So make sure that you highlight, for example, I'm going to keep the project coordinator, which is a very straightforward type of job. You're like, okay, I'm applying for a project coordinator, but I'm also applying for HR because I like HR. You want to make sure that the first 3 bullet points on your job description talk something that will relate to that person that is recruiting, that's the job that you want. Because if you're a project